Good afternoon, and it is Friday, which means that it is All Things Advocacy with AARP North Dakota. I'm Josh Askvig, State Director for AARP North Dakota, and she's back. She was gone last Friday, as you know, and a well-earned vacation day and break to get away, but she's back this week. Janelle Moos, our Advocacy Director. How you doing, Janelle?
I'm good. It's good to be back.
Good. We were just chatting. This week was fairly slow for us. Plenty going on, but slow compared to what we're looking at. So you want to talk about what happened this week a little bit?
We had a nice break to refocus and get ready for the second half of the session. So what we focused a lot of our time on today, is you had Martin Burns on last week with you. We were focused on two utilities cases, an MDU natural gas case, as well as an Xcel Energy electric case. The two public hearings were held, input hearings were held this week. And, what we heard was some really powerful stories from individuals that will be impacted by this and why, increase in utility rates impacts their pocketbooks. Why will it be difficult for them, and especially if they're on a fixed income? The Public Service Commission also acknowledged that they heard your voices loud and clear in emails and in phone calls. So they know you're out there. They know that you're interested and concerned about the increase in these rates and what will impact your lives every day. So.
Excellent. And yes, thank you to those of you who sent an email and called. You can still do so. That record is still open. So we'll talk about where you can find that link here in a minute. Janelle, the legislature did return on Wednesday also, and we did do some work around the legislative process this week. You want to talk a little bit about what we testified in favor of this week?
Yeah, we did testify on what is now considered a study resolution, which is Senate Bill 2253, and it's going to study the long-term care insurance market. What we know is a lot of folks purchased long-term care insurance policies many years ago, and that was when the vision for long-term care looked a lot different. And so these policies really aren't capturing, the essence of what folks are going to need now and into the future. So the legislature is really invested in this, as well as the insurance commissioner, in looking at what were those policies and how can we start to plan for the future and get folks at the table to have that conversation.
Absolutely. So next week, we'll pivot to next week. We'll be back, I guess the full time, I guess would be the best way to phrase it next week. The legislature really gets going again in earnest next week. And if we have a priority issue, whether it's prescription drugs, home and community-based services funding, fighting for and protecting nursing home residents, or fighting for fraud or protections or others, it's happening next week. So where do you want to start? Maybe we should start with prescription drugs and talk about what's coming up Tuesday next week on prescription drugs.
Yeah, you're right. Tuesday we'll be kicking it off with two of our bills that we move forward this session, both related to wholesale Canadian drug importation. They'll both be heard in the House Human Services Committee. We hope to really shine a light on these are two important bills that the Senate felt were important, and the House, we want you to consider it as well. And they'll really, one is looking at a study resolution to study the cost of prescription drugs, while the other one says, hey, if another state, creates this wholesale drug importation program, how can North Dakota partner with them and really start to pave the way in our state?
And again, we'll be asking you at the end of this update here today to weigh in again with your legislators. I know some of you are saying, well, we already sent a message. That was to your senator. We're now going to ask you to reach out to your House members about these two bills in support of that as well. Janelle, let's talk a little bit. We spent, I don't know that we've updated folks. There's a bill that AARP's really concerned about relating to nursing home immunity and protecting nursing home residents. You want to talk a little bit about that next week and why we're weighing in opposition to that?
House Bill 1175, I think, is the number. So, it's going to be heard in Senate Industry, Business, and Labor Committee next week. What we're concerned about is looking at, we want to make sure that even in times of crisis and emergency, that folks know that your resident, your family member is safe in a facility. And so we want to make sure even, that there are no protections, or really you don't want to allow someone to continue to look at not acknowledging there could be some potential, abuse. We want to make sure that there's, no protections regarding that immunity. So.
Yeah, and it really, in a time when there have been restrictions on visitation, and oftentimes folks in a long-term care facility may not be able to advocate for themselves that providing immunity and blanket immunity for those facilities really is not the right approach, especially when you've seen the number of deaths, including here in North Dakota in nursing homes. And so we'll be pushing back hard against that one as well. Janelle, there's also a bill related to enhancing some fraud protection that we're going to weigh in on this week. You want to talk just a little bit about that?
As a lot of you know, consumer fraud protection work is really paramount to what we do. We want to make sure that consumers can protect themselves from becoming victims of fraud. And we know that during coronavirus and the pandemic, a rise in fraud, and we want to make sure that these simple changes that the Attorney General's office are moving forward really allow for enhanced protections to prevent that fraud and abuse that happens to so many North Dakotans.
Yeah, it's been a great bill to work on, and we had wide support in the Senate side, and hoping to again get it on the House side here as well. I think the last thing I'll just close with is we've been weighing in on a number of supports and funding supports, whether it's Medicaid expansion, so enhancements for aging services, enhancements for meals funding, and elsewhere in the Department of Human Services budget. That all kind of, and the Senate will handle it a little bit differently, but the Senate, it looks like next week is going to dig into that human services budget, and we'll be there certainly pushing for our priorities as well. Anything you want to add on that?
No, you're right. I think what's important is we want to make sure that we continue to fight for you, to make sure that you can stay in your home longer and you have those supports to do that, and any other enhancements related to nutrition and keeping the lights on in your house is what we're looking at. So.
And Janelle, we didn't even get a chance, and I think we're running a little short on time here, but we didn't even get a chance to talk about, there's a paid family leave study bill that we're looking at. There's a number of things related to nursing home rates and nursing home space to help enhance home and community-based services and those things. So it's going to be a very busy week at the legislature next week. What's our message for folks next week, and what should they be doing if they want to take action this week?
The best thing you could do is to reach out to your legislators. Again, tell them that, yes, this is the second half of the legislative session, but prescription drugs is still the #1 issue that's important to AARP and to our members. So reach out to them, welcome them back to the second half of the session, and encourage them to support our prescription drug bills. And you can go to aarp.org. NDA team, and you can find all of the updates there and more information about how to get a hold of your legislator and the message to share with them.
Yeah, and for the full report, I put a link to the page that Janelle just put on our Facebook page. For those of you watching on Facebook, for those of you watching on YouTube, the link will be there in the comments section as well for you to go there. And then all of this report, as well as the links for you to send an email to your representatives on prescription drugs, will be there as well. Janelle, anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
No, it's just welcome back, and stay tuned. We'll keep you updated as we look to what happens next week. So. Yeah,
next week will probably be a longer report, because I think we're going to have a lot to cover, a lot to share. And I just want to close with this message. We had a very successful first half of the legislative session, or quote unquote first half of the legislative session before crossover. And that was in large part to those of you who have watched, who are getting our emails, who are seeing our work, and the work you're doing to talk to your legislators and talk about what's important to you. And so encourage you to continue to keep it up. Look for more from us in the coming week. And it's been another great Friday, and enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Bye, everyone.